Yes, another episode of Unfiltered coming your way. Here and now, this one officially go down as episode number 191. As always, you can jump on board the Unfiltered Revolution anytime, number of ways. Jump on Twitter at Casey Stern, get in the bio, hit up the YouTube channel, subscribe, like the videos, watch all the interviews, rants, lists, conversations, and more through now 190 plus episodes. And of course, where most of you are, equal opportunists, are we on Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcasts. And thank you, Unfiltered Band. Not sure how long this is going to be or how quiet, to be honest with you, because what we saw as I do this here on a Wednesday, last night, in a situation where Bruce Bochy called it, and he's been around a while, we're talking about a Hall of Fame manager, one of the worst calls he's ever seen. It's one of the worst calls any of us have ever seen. And when you say that out loud and there's no instant replay, that is somewhat more palatable because then you understand there's no failsafe. There's no backup. There's no oopsie, let's fix it. When you're dealing with instant replay and then you come back downstairs and you change it and overturn it with what we usually hear about the conclusive and inconclusive evidence to overturn calls and the abomination that's been over the years. And this is where you do it. And this is when you do it. To overturn a call like that in the game between the Rangers and the White Sox at home plate was one of the most disgusting displays of Major League Baseball replay, as bad as it's been overall for years, that we literally have ever seen. I want to dig into it, dive into it, but first, let's make sure to help out our friends at BetOnline. BetOnline, your number one source for all your championship finals info, stats, news, and scores. Get the latest odds and lines, and you can get the latest matchup reports for this year's NBA and Stanley Cup Finals. BetOnline is your sports intel headquarters this season. They've got you covered for all of your insider sports wagering needs. Basketball, hockey, MLB, UFC, and boxing. The fastest and easiest way to get your betting info, including live betting options in your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your home. So get into the action today. Do it now. Here's how you do it. Head over to the website or use your mobile device to join, but be sure to use the promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to receive your rewards and your 50% bonus on your first deposit. It's BetOnline, where the game starts, and that is where we get started here. I watched this play, did not see it live, saw it last night come up, and go viral quickly on social media like everybody else did, and then watched it again several times early this morning because I wanted to try and put myself into the mind of the folks in replay who will never see or have to face any accountability whatsoever. And I wanted to try and understand what they were looking at. And the more I watched this, the more disgusted and the more frustrated I became because not even the umpire, who you could visibly see if you slow it down, Jonah Heim, is asking, what is he supposed to do? And the umpire seems to reply, I'm no lip reader, with, I don't know. Not even they understood what the hell went on. And the saddest part of all of this to me is I can tell you that I myself go back to the spring training where the rule changes were implemented after the Cousins and Posey thing happened and everything changed in baseball because we got to protect our assets and we got to make sure that we catch in collisions, even though, and I love Buster, a Hall of Fame catcher, a lot of people would say out of position on that play that first necessitated all of this. But I remember asking at the time, catchers with 2 weeks to go, if you recall, I think it was, maybe a little bit longer, in spring training. They implemented it in the middle of the spring, right before the season. And every single catcher I asked said the same two things in different ways. Everyone, when we were doing our spring training tour at the time on SiriusXM. Number one, none of the actual catchers who were catching in the league wanted this rule. None of them were worried. They enjoy collisions. Have you ever played Little League? You ever play with the guys who catch who want to do it? They're waiting for that play. That's how those guys grow up. They didn't want any of this anyway. They weren't worried about that anyway. So number one, none of them even wanted it implemented. And number two, and this is the bigger point for where we are today in this conversation, none of them really understood how the rule was going to be used or what the hell they were supposed to do in terms of where the ball is coming from the outfield, where they could position themselves, how to block the plate, how to make sure they don't block it incorrectly, where they're allowed to take ownership of a position to go receive a baseball to try and make a tag and to get an out, collision or not. None of them understood. Now, here's the saddest part. We are now this many years later, and none of us have a damn clue what the hell happened last night. None of us. And credit to the guys on the broadcast for the White Sox, too, who both, they couldn't understand what the hell had gone on. And if you haven't seen that, after you watch or listen to this, go ahead and go find that on social media because they couldn't get it either. For those who didn't see the play, ball comes in from left field. And Jonah Heim is behind. He's behind the plate. It's a sweep tag. There was plenty of room to get to the plate for Andrus, who's coming around third base. And for this to decide a game, which essentially it decided a baseball game. Now, the White Sox are going nowhere, but the Rangers look like they could be. Not going to be easy to fend off the Astros. And we all want to go back and we say, you can't lose it in April. You can win it in April. You can't do this game. Here's a game where we got the game decided, right, by a play where thankfully, thank God, this is what we're supposed to believe and pray, that the replay, folks, the guys who can literally slow it down and take another look were in charge of determining what was happening. And the craziest part of it is on the field, there was no problem. No harm, no foul. Pedro Grifol says, they went up and they questioned everything. Now, look, I wasn't there in the conversation, whether or not they're questioning or challenging that he had tagged him properly or that he had blocked the plate, or they're just doing it hoping to get lucky. And by God, did they ever get lucky? The fact that it goes upstairs to replay and whoever the hell the person was, because we don't get accountability of anybody. Now, look, accountability with umpires, refs, you could go to boxing and, combat sports and UFC. Accountability for all of this across the board is a little wonky in all sports. But in Major League Baseball, they have hid these guys forever. We've talked about this forever. I'm sorry. And the league hates when you discuss it and they get mad at you. And I've had them get mad at me. You couldn't do it when you're sitting there and you're covering it from a standpoint of on a national network, or they don't like that because the umpires, they say, no, they have accountability. Why? Because some guy goes out sometimes in front of a pool reporter and one guy gets asked 3-4 questions. He makes his comments and leaves. Well, where the hell's the guy from replay last night? Anybody know who it was? I'd like to know who it was. Maybe it's out there. Maybe he made a comment I haven't seen yet as I do this and tape it at 8 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast the next morning. Maybe I haven't seen it. But we never get accountability from any of these guys at all. And that's part of why this fraternity nonsense that goes on with the overturning normally in instant replay, which is, by the way, what makes this magically fascinating, that this of all things gets overturned. But all the time when you're dealing with this inconclusive to overturn BS, I have said this forever, you don't need someone who is a former umpire in replay who then has friendships and has relationships and has reason to back and reason to protect and reason to defend. You don't need that up there because then every time they overturn a bad call from an ump, they're saying, hey, look, our group, right, didn't get it right. Now, the irony of that is the whole point of this is that no matter how good umpires are, and look, most of them are very good overall, and certainly their percentages are very good overall, and none of us would get 100%. I could sit there at first base right now on a bang-bang play, and I've got no idea if I would even get better than 50% of whether a guy's out or safe. That's how fast that's happening. That is not easy to do. But that's the whole point of instant replay, is to protect that, to be able to go upstairs, to have someone to say, Now, don't worry. We understand you're a human being and not a computer or a robot. So we slowed it down and we have the computer and we got the video system and we made sure that you have a guy who touched the bag before the ball was in the glove and he is safe. Don't worry about it. We got your back. But what happens is it's actually more about we got your back even when it's wrong. We'll just say it's not conclusive enough to overturn, which I'm sorry, pardon my French, is a bunch of bullshit. And that happens all the freaking time. All the time. Now, in this case, you got a situation where on the field, didn't really look like much at all. It's an out. To get that overturned, I would love to know what that Bruce Bochy, one of the best managers. Look, I said this on a show recently about a week ago. Look, he and Tito are as good as any I covered in the last couple of decades. And you got Dusty, you got a lot of guys who are still managing your Hall of Fame. Bochy right at the top of that list. I mean, Boch is he's been around. But when he says last night after he got ejected, that's one of the worst calls I've ever seen, and he's dumbfounded, you're damn right he's dumbfounded, because all of us that are breathing and living are dumbfounded, because that was an absolute horse poop call that made no sense. But go back again. It's okay to say that when it's on the field, and then that's what replay is for, to fix it. When it's coming from replay, that's when you get absolutely bananas. It is like going into school, right? And the teacher is sitting there and teaching the kids. And the teacher says to the children, America was discovered by George Clooney in 1997. Really? And he comes home and he says, what'd you learn today? I learned America was discovered by George Clooney in 1997. Huh? Now, if a kid said that in the room, that's okay. They're just wrong. Don't worry, the teacher will correct it. Don't worry, replay will correct it. The judges, the umpires, the referees, they will correct it. But when you're sitting there in a situation where the replay system, the people upstairs, the governing body who's telling you what's right or wrong, fair or foul, out or safe, wrong or right, in or out, when they are the ones who are telling you the wrong information, well, who the hell am I supposed to trust now? It is absolute garbage. Garbage. It takes forever. We don't use the technology. We got all this money we spend at our disposal to make this in an IFB and an ear, a bang-bang play. We got guys under hoods like idiots for years. I mean, the whole thing is stupid in its own right. And by the way, I'm not one of these, well, replay shouldn't be there at all. I'm one of these, why isn't it better? Why don't we make it better? Why haven't we adjusted to make it better? So let's go back to, forgive me, coffee. Let's go back to upstairs. Why does it have to be an umpire? Really? If the key to it, right? And I was working at MLB.com way back in the day in an office on the same floor where they built the replay system and put the replay center in, right? And you got some great people. I don't know everybody who's in there now, but I'm sure some of the same people. You got great people who are smart people and all that, right? Who are video folks, who are editors, who are making sure to give these umpires as quick as they can the looks that they need. But why do I need an umpire when I could go get some dudes from MIT to sit up there who know all the video and the editing and all that, put them through some paces and make sure that they understand we are just looking for an answer. I don't care what the hell was called on the field. I just want to know if he is touching the bag before the ball's in the glove. I want to know if that ball is fair or if it's foul. I want to know if that went over the fence, if it didn't go over the fence. Is that a tag? Is that not a tag? Slow down the video, make it look the way you need, and you go and you just give me an answer. That's all I need is the right answer. I don't care what the hell was answered beforehand. Because usually, predominantly in this situation, what goes wrong is the fact that we say everything's inconclusive and we can't overturn it because we got the same guys upstairs. They're not going to get on their friends. Can't do that. Not going to get on the fraternity. Can't do that. Oh, my God. No way. How could you have a situation? And here is the Bochy used the word dumbfounded, right? It's like, it's like when plays happen in the end zone in football, right? And every score is reviewed and all of that other kind of stuff, right? This is a play at the plate. This is a play at home plate. For those of you who are new to this thing, that is where you score. That is how you win. If we can't understand what's supposed to happen at home plate, what the hell are we doing? And I'll go back to it 2 weeks, or maybe it was 3, before a season started. You implement this in spring training, and you got no catcher who understands what it's going to be like, what they're supposed to do. You got every umpiring crew that sees it arbitrarily in their own way, right? In a different light. Every home plate umpire in a different light. Every replay person, not the same person every day. And I guarantee you, 99% of the human beings breathing, 99.999er, would have gone in replay, looked at this and said, no. Because they didn't have to worry about overturning anything downstairs. The call was right. There is no call. But you got one dope up there, and that's all it takes. But when I got guys behind the plate who don't know exactly how it's supposed to be handled, and that's because guys are arbitrarily in umpiring crews handling it differently, because guys up in replay are handling it differently, then what the hell are we supposed to do with it? I understand. Remember that thing years ago, you would look at something. It was kind of like one of those magic eye things. You look at it. Like, I don't remember the other name, but you see Laurel or you see some other name. Like, wait, what do you hear? Like, we have all this nonsense over the years, right, that's gone viral. I would love to know how many people on God's green earth would have looked down at that call and said that was blocking the plate. He's behind the plate. He was behind the plate. There was tons of room. You go look at the angle coming this way from left field when they go from behind home plate, and you're sitting there looking directly at it, and there's tons of room. Francis Ngannou could have gone in there. Tyson Fury could have had room. You got to be kidding me. It is a complete and utter failure. It's a disgrace. But not just that play, that entirety of that rule and not understanding it, the entirety of replay and having no accountability or any of us understanding it. And guess what? There's no apology. Nobody after the game knew. The umpires down on the field didn't even understand why the hell it was overturned. We don't understand. Where's the, I'm sorry. You know, one thing I admired in years covering the NBA is at least with they would have that, you know, that 2 minute where they'd sit there and after at the end of the night, they're going through all the different plays, and they go and they give you a report the next morning. And we would even have guys on live from there in Jersey and Secaucus, and they would sit there and they'd explain, okay, this is where the call was, this is where it's right, this is where. At least there's a report. They're not going to be Major League Baseball giving you a report. They don't even know how the balls were changed. They all got stolen somehow accidentally a few years ago. All changed. Start leaving the building. They ain't going to tell you anything. We find out nothing. So a Ranger fan has no recourse. Bruce Bochy got no recourse. Instant replay is something that people are going to sit there and they're going to crap on it and say, well, this is terrible and it's always been bad and it needs to go. Major League Baseball shouldn't have instituted it. And this is what we do in life that is wrong all the time. We just say, no, that was a bad idea. Sometimes it's not the idea that was bad. It's the execution that was wrong. It's the execution that needs to be improved, needs to be changed, needs to be elevated, needs to level up, needs to advance. And this is a clear-cut example of many that this system has not done that. Because all you need to know is you can't block the plate, and he wasn't blocking the plate. It's a travesty. An absolute abomination, a disgrace, and a joke. But not to Ranger fans, not to that team, not to Bruce Bochy. But where's the replay, dude? Nowhere. We're here. Unfiltered is always presented by our good friends